It's week 2 here at AT&T Training Camp, and the pads are officially on. We've got so much to talk about today, from rookie standouts to the passing game and the Falcons defense as a whole. Of course, I am not here alone. I'm here with Scott Bair and Dave Archer. Guys, it's been an exciting training camp so far.
It's been so exciting that I've forgotten to shave. I've got my training camp scruff working right now, but that's what you do during training camp, right?
I mean, I've got a little bit of the training camp brain going on, so if I stumble over my words a little bit, I'm going to apologize in advance.
Well, I mean, I keep staring at this roster because there are so many new faces. There are so many number changes, my goodness. Hard to keep track of all these new guys, but I think that's what's made this first couple weeks so fun, learning about all these new faces, all these new talents, and seeing how they're going to mesh together to form the 2023 Atlanta Falcons.
It's been so exciting, but before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's look at the highlights from the last week and a half here at AT&T Training Camp. I mean, like I said, you guys, I mean, so exciting. It's been electric here for the last week and a half, right?
It's been incredible, really, Scott. I mean, I know that the fans have been interacting with us on the field. They just want to get a piece of this thing. Tons of fans have come out throughout the week, really excited. You know what? It's translated to the field, Scott. We've seen it with the players high-fiving and body fiving and all sorts of stuff. Guy makes a catch downfield, they're all running down to celebrate. It's been a lot of fun.
And I think part of that is due to how many free agents that we have. Another part is due to the fact that this draft class is so interesting for sure. Yeah,
this rookie class and then the free agents, like you discussed before, like there's so many new people on this team, but the rookies in particular, I want to talk about them just really quickly and touch on them. This is such an important time, not just for everyone, but more specifically the rookies. What is that first train? I mean, Dave, for you, I mean, you had a first training camp. What does that first training camp look like for a rookie?
Well, it's scary, first of all. You know, I was coming to a big city. I played at Iowa State, and that was the biggest city I'd been in, and then all of a sudden I was in Atlanta. So it was a major change for me, and then all of a sudden all these guys are coming together to try to come together as a common cause, like Scott was talking about, but you're also trying to beat some guys out, so you're not one of those guys that's going home. So it's scary. There's a lot of learning. You got to pour yourself into the book. It's tiring. My rookie year, 17 straight days in pads, 2-a-days in pads. Yeah, you were losing weight. You forgot, you know, you couldn't remember anybody's name. I mean, it was like that. But it's still, there's a level of excitement. You know, you're branching off into something new in your life that's going to change your life forever.
Yeah, it's a big adjustment from college to now. And Coach Smith had something to say to the media about the adjustment period for the rookies. So go ahead and take a look at that.
Overall, how did the rookies hold up this first day in pads?
Yeah, I thought, Zach Harrison, I thought had a pretty solid start to the week, like any rookie, ups and downs. And then I thought he came back for a day off, and you felt him out there today. Those are encouraging, signs. It's a long journey for those guys. They're going to have ups and downs, how they handle failure. But so far, pretty pleased. I know everybody's optimistic, but those guys, you actually feel them, and I'm not just giving you cliches and coach speak. I mean, you guys watch the practice, so you guys have seen them at certain points too.
Coach, we can see so many different ways that you can use Bijan. It's pretty apparent on the tape and everything, but the stuff that we don't see, in terms of learning the playbook, IQ, all of his different calls, how would you evaluate him in the early going in that regard? Yeah,
I think he does it. Look, part of the pre-draft process too is you got to find out how guys learn. There's old conventional wisdom in the way things were taught, and I've tried to change every year, and you you have your own unique learning experience as a coach and as a teacher, and so that's a lot of the stuff pre-draft you really want to figure out, because everybody's uniquely different. Everybody in here learns different, but I do believe in the slow, long method, so you don't feel like you're cramming for exam every night. I think most of us in here, maybe somebody would say they never have, but we know that feeling when you kind of cram and you kind of get in the exam room, you're like, oh, maybe I should have studied a little harder for that one. You don't feel rushed. Like, he's got his process, and that's why the spring is so vitally important. I think Mike Petrie is a hell of a teacher. We certainly believe in the way we teach and our progression, and hasn't been many mental errors. There's some technique stuff that's going to happen as you get tired, and that's part of transition to the NFL. But from a mental standpoint, he's been pretty damn sharp.
Guys, Coach Smith spoke about how it's a little different for everyone in that adjustment period in time. But Scott, you study this team more than anyone probably in this building, at least on the digital side. What is so important with making these connections with veterans and making, friendships with guys on your side of the ball?
Yeah, I think what a lot of fans don't know is that here at Atlanta Falcons training camp, they stay in dorms right next to the training complex, and it's veterans and rookies from the same position group put together. That's not by accident. They want to put veterans with younger guys, right? They want Troy Anderson and Michael Walker in the same room. They want quarterbacks working together. And I think that that's where you form those bonds, not only going over the practice tape and the practice game plan, but also getting to know these guys, building trust, not only on the practice field, but also in the dorm room, and getting to know somebody, being willing to play for that person because you know and you care about that individual. All these bonds are being built during camp.
Yeah, I think the dorm is like such a fun, different way to kind of get to know your guys and get to know your teammates and kind of learn how to trust one another. But something I took from that Arthur Smith presser that really stood out to me was how much he praised Coach Mike Petrie, of how great of a teacher he is. And I think it really, not just for Bijan, but I mean, look at Tyler Algier. I mean, in his rookie year, he had over 1,000 rushing yards. It's pretty incredible. Looking at Tyler Algier and then the offense as a whole, what excites you about this offense moving into this season?
Well, I think it probably permeates the entire team, but it's the versatility that they're going to have from a personnel standpoint. I mean, you could essentially line up in the old wishbone, for those that are old enough to remember that. You could come out with Tyler Algier, Bijan Robinson, and Cordero Patterson lined up in the bone in the backfield and have double tight ends and Jonnu Smith and Kyle Pitts. And you could say shift and explode to an empty backfield, and all of them are accomplished receivers. That's the versatility of this. Now throw in Drake London and some of these other guys you're going to be able to mix into the mix. And it's going to be very difficult for teams to match them personnel-wise. But speaking specifically about Tyler Algier, to accept the load that he did to break William Andrews' rookie rushing record a year ago and go over 1,000 yards the way he did, just goes to show you his work ethic. And now you're going to add Bijan to that. Cordero's going to get his mix. It's going to be fun to watch now.
Yeah, Scott, what excites you about this offense the most?
I look at exactly what Dave was talking about. The options are virtually limitless with what they can do with shifts and motions and formations. And you're right, you can start in 22 and go 4 wide, right? You can do so many different things. But something that wasn't available to the Falcons late last year was Kyle Pitts, who was he's coming back from an injury. And look, he's not all the way back at this stage of training camp, but we're seeing him get a little bit better, and we're seeing his activity ramping up a little bit more. And you talk about versatile. This is a guy that can play inline, he can play in the slot, he can play out wide. As a rookie, he had more than 1,000 receiving yards and has never really worked with Desmond Ridder. So I want to see getting a healthy Kyle Pitts back into this equation with everything that Dave's talking about. The moving around, the playing four-dimensional chess. You add Kyle Pitts in there, I'm excited to see what he can do with what the Falcons are going to do offensively.
I want to talk about Kyle really quickly. Kyle, the last 3 years, including this one, has been with a quarterback who's been different every year. Mm-hmm. What's special about this year for Kyle working with a quarterback like Desmond Ridder?
Well, I think that Des is kind of a mix of what you've had the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. He's a stand-up, in-the-pocket guy that can throw it. You watch him at Cincinnati, 50 games at Cincinnati. He threw a lot of things from the pocket. Now his ability to create and get out of the pocket, as a receiver, I love that, because if I don't get the ball on the break or in the timing concept, a lot of times you think, oh, the play's over. Not with Ridder. Ridder's going to be able to get out and extend plays. That's exciting for players too. So I think that working with him, there's going to be some growing pains. I mean, we've already seen it in training camp. He's got to learn the receivers. He's got to learn the timing of the routes. Got to learn the footwork. He and Coach Rags are working a ton of time on his footwork all the time. So, and I'm talking about Ritter there. But I think that the combination of those two guys, and then the competitiveness that is in Kyle, and you mix it with those other guys, it's gonna be fun.
I think, something that really sticks out to me, and it's the most fun to me in training camp, is the one-on-ones. It's so fun, and Kyle, I think, has been doing such a great job of like that acclimation period to get back to where he is in those one-on-ones. And something that stuck out to me, especially in these one-on-ones, is the DBs. As we're switching to defense. I mean, the growth that you've seen in the secondary altogether has been enormous. And Ryan Nielsen actually sat down with our Tori McElhaney earlier this week to discuss what the defense is shaping up to be. Take a look.
Hi everybody, I'm Tori McElhaney, joined here in Ticketmaster Studios with defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen. Thank you for joining me as we kind of get to the bottom of this defense. I am really excited because I do think this is the first time we've had you in studio since the week you were hired. A lot has happened since then. Two guys that you know very well, David Onyemata and Caden Ellis, have joined the team along with a guy like Jesse Bates III, go through the draft, but in OTAs and rookie minicamp, so many things have happened since the last time we sat down together. What have you learned about this defense since those early days of putting this group together?
Yeah, really the players are hungry, high energy, very smart. We got a smart defense. But the guys love to go out there and compete. I mean, as a coach, you love that. You guys go out there on the field, they got high energy, they're running around. They've really adopted what we're doing. They've taken pride in their fundamentals and technique. And they've interacted very well with each other. You see them on the side talking to each other in the lunchroom, around the building. And so the cohesiveness with the unit that takes time.
Right.
And that's been a little quicker than expected.
I know when we first talked in your introductory press conference, you used words to describe this defense as aggressive, and I want to say attack. Those were the words that you used. How do you see those descriptors coming to life even now that we're in the preseason?
Sure, we always want to be going forward. We want to forward body lean, attack the offense. We never want to be dictated to. We want to be the dictators. We've focused guys that have that kind of mindset and we've seen on tape to bring guys in, whether it be in the draft, free agency, and then the guys here, they've really adopted that. And that comes from the top. Coach Smith, that's what he's about, and we've talked about this, firmly believe in that style of defense. That's a style of defense we want to play, be aggressive, physical, attacking.
Another group that I feel like has such a good camaraderie with each other is the secondary. I have to say, this secondary has been so fun for me to watch just even early in camp. I think that between AJ Terrell and Jeff Okuda, Richie Grant, Jesse Bates, and on and on and on, these are guys who, you talk about being hungry, this group feels hungry. What makes you excited about this group that's kind of been put together through free agency, but also guys who have kind of grown up here in Atlanta over the last few years too?
Sure, a very talented group, excited about the group, really good guys in the room, smart football players, athletic, we got speed, really good combination of size, speed, how the style of play that we like. Those guys, again, Jerry Gray and Steve Jackson, those guys working with them. I mean, you've seen the fundamental, the guys take to the fundamentals of what they're being coached and taught to do, and you're seeing it every day. And I think that group, from day one in spring until now, I mean, you've seen just a steady improvement, not just this huge jump, but man, they just keep getting better and getting better. And really in the secondary with all, the passing game, and that takes some time to, get in a rhythm. And those two coaches done a phenomenal job with the players, and the players really have bought in. And so when you go in those meeting rooms and they're having conversations, and Jerry's coaching them, and it's really cool to be in there. How'd you see this and this? And I want put it like this. And the guys, all right. And so then you'll see it the next day in practice. That's exciting. It excites you. You see the players take the coaching and then they take it out to the field.
Just to kind of wrap up, I know we are still a little ways away from the start of the season, but what really excites you and what should fans be excited about in regards to this defense and kind of what y'all want to put out on the field even day one?
Yeah, just like what we've talked about, being attacking, aggressive, high energy, intense, and passionate about how we play. We want to be assignment sound, be a physical, well tackling, take the ball away defense. I mean, that's what we want to be about.
Love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tori. Guys, the Falcons have had such a massive overhaul of their defense, really from every point of the defense. So now that they're here at camp and they're kind of working together, what has excited you and what have you seen the most out of in this defense so far?
I like seeing the buy-in to what Ryan Nielsen is doing and implementing here. And he talks a lot about attack and be aggressive, right?
Yeah.
I like that phrase. He said something in the interview that really struck me. He said, dictate tempo. Set the tempo, dictate terms up front. And we're starting to see that with this defensive front, but seeing how, look, Ryan's a very intense guy. Come out to practice, sit on the hill, guarantee that you can see that from 100 yards away. But I like the buy-in, and I like the concept of attack, be aggressive, and set terms for the offense. You are in control. From a defender, I think that is a refreshing take to see all 11 guys buy into that. Has been pretty fun.
Yeah, how important is that what Scott's talking about? Dictate terms. Okay, what does that mean? This is a team that was not very good against the run a year ago. And in turn, it led to, they were 31st in the league on third down conversion on defense. Teams are converting almost 46% of the time on third down. And it also limited you to be able to pass rush because you had to defend run on third down because you didn't have anybody in third and long situations. Subsequently, 22 sacks is all you had, 31st in the league. Those things with an attack mentality that Scott's talking about, that changes. You're dictating what down and distances teams are going to have to face, and now all of a sudden it's a little bit more uncomfortable on that side of the ball.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the secondary as a whole has been really impressive to me over this week and a half. Just the pressures that they've been adding on the wide receivers, on that run game as well, on the tight ends. I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, you name a player, they've put pressure on them. And I think it's such a testament. I mean, we've talked about Ryan Nielsen as a coach and who he is, but really Coach Gray as well. I mean, if you watch him at camp, anytime that someone on the secondary has a problem or messes up a little bit, he pulls them to the side immediately and says, "Here's where you need to make this up next time. Here's where you went wrong." And I think watching the coaches is so telling of how this defense will come together and how they communicate as a unit. And I just find that really interesting. Like, what has stood out to you in the terms, I know we've kind of talked about just a little bit, but with Ryan Nielsen and the coaching staff that he's brought on board so far?
Yeah, I mean, Jerry Gray, like as you pointed out, Cornell Armstrong got beat pretty good in a one-on-one drill. And Jerry Gray didn't rush up to yell. He didn't rush up to pat him on the butt and get him to the sideline. He immediately stood there and explained how his pretty good coverage could have been that much better. And in talking to the defensive backs, you hear about a guy who's Jerry Gray, who's been around the block, I don't know, 30 or 40 times, right? But he's the same dude. You played against Jerry.
Yeah, he was the number one pick for the Rams.
Incredible.
He's the same guy every day. And he's been that way for a long time. And I think that guys respect that, ultimately. And I think that they are responding to it. Nielsen is a defensive line type of guy. I think having Jerry Gray is a good yin-yang, really solid balance in the back.
Yeah, I thought one of the things that Ryan also said to kind of echo what Scott's talking about is they're talking about stuff in the meeting rooms, talking about stuff on the side, like he's talking about with Cornell, but they're taking it out onto the field and they're translating it. He talked about how he's got a bunch of smart guys in all the rooms and they're really competitive. And that's fine if you're really competitive, but if you can translate what we're talking about in meeting rooms and you can get it on the field and you can make it come to life on the field, and if you don't, we'll fix it, and then you can make it come to life. Those are the things that Scott's talking about. That's what's happening out there. It's a deep, deep defense with a lot of guys, a lot of size, versatility, just like the offense. They're going to be a problem for people if they can get clicking together as a group.
Yeah, it's, as you said, it's a deep defense, and they've been competing really well. But next week, they're heading down to Miami to compete with a team that they haven't seen yet. Scott, you're going down with the team.
Yeah.
What are you looking for in this next week when they go against Miami?
I want to see some intensity. I want to see some fire, and I think that we're going to get all that. Michael Walker was talking about that when you're going up against your teammate, you're eventually going to pull up. But in that first period of joint practices, who's going to pull up first? And I think that type of intensity is going to be fun, and we're going to learn more about this unit. I think we've learned a lot to this point. We've talked about the quality depth at every layer. We're talking about the team speed. How's that going to match up against another opponent? It's going to be hot. It's going to be maybe contentious, and that's fine. I want to see the level of play go up this way.
No question about it. That's what you're looking for. I think that the game within the game for me is Miami's offense versus Atlanta's defense.
Yeah, good
I
point.
think Miami's got a big-time offense. If their quarterback can stay on the field, they're going to be in the hunt for the playoffs. They've got tremendous speed on the perimeter with their receivers, and Atlanta being able to match up there with coming with pressure and still match up man-to-man, because we've seen a lot of man press coverage during training camp, and I think that the guys love playing aggressively like that. You got to stick with your man, and you got to be able to get home to the quarterback.
Yeah, so a couple more days here in Atlanta, and then the team is going to head down to Miami for their first preseason game, which is going to be next Friday. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been your 2023 AT&T Training Camp Show.